I'm a nobody from nowhere that ain't never done nothing. That's what I am. An old head. These young coaches, I tell you what, I can't figure these jokers out. They got a backpack on and tight something. I don't know what they're doing. They're getting on my nerves. I can tell you that. I know what ain't in the backpack. A string and a let me paint that line for you. That ain't in there. That's for sure. I had a kid the other day. He said, "Hey, Coach, didn't Christopher Columbus write the Pledge of Allegiance?" I said he sure did. He also played quarterback for the 1985 Chicago Bears. He said, "Bet." That happened. Sun Coaches, Season 6, where coaches come and tell their stories. Some of them are funny. Some of them is going to help you in your coaching journey. Not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Sun Coaches, brought to you by Titan Sensor. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA, proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State Champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 6, and today I'm joined by the head coach of the Etowah Eagles, Coach Coach Vavra. Thanks for being on with me.
Coach, I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor.
Well, Coach, where did you actually grow up and go to high school and all that kind of good stuff?
Yep. I grew up in Marietta, Georgia. I went to Sprayberry High School, where I spent last 8 years as a head coach, and I was there for about 13 and a half years, off and on. But yeah, I grew up in Marietta, and like I said, played at Sprayberry.
Who was your head coach?
I had a couple different head coaches. My first 2 years was Ronnie White, and then my last 2 years was Billy Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And did you you played football? Did you play other sports in high school or just?
I did. Yeah, I played basketball for my first 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, and then I realized I was everybody else that made an emphasis on it to play and did the summer stuff got a lot better, and I just kind of stayed the same. I didn't get a whole lot better. I remember my our varsity coach going into my junior year was Roger Quam, who's did a heck of a job for us, but he was also our strength coach, and he said, "Vavra, you hustle like nobody else, and you play hard, and you do a great job, but you just, I'm probably not going to cut you, so you're probably not ever going to play. So just keep that in mind." At that point, I kind of made the decision. Probably basketball, and even though I enjoyed it, probably needed to step away from that, and I wish I would have played and continued playing, but I focused on football and strength conditioning and off season training and things like that. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed basketball, and I grew up playing baseball my whole life, and got a little burned out. So when I got to high school, I quit doing that. But yeah, I had a great time at Sprayberry.
Well, did you have an opportunity to play football at the next level?
I did, yes, sir. I signed with the United States Naval Academy, and that was like my dream to play Division I football. And so my grades were really good in high school, but my SAT score was not great. I think it was just over 1,000, which is not horrible, but it's not wasn't what you need to get in directly to the academy. So I went to Naval Academy Prep School. I played one season up there. It's in Newport, Rhode Island. Um, don't regret it one bit. I loved it. It was a great experience for me. I grew up a good bit, met a lot of great people. Got to be in another part of the country, which I'd never been before, really. And then I decided to transfer. So I played a season there, and then I transferred and played 4 seasons at Tennessee Tech University. Played Mike linebacker there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody that gets an opportunity to go to the Naval Academy, whether it's or any of the service academies, whether it's a prep school or the actual academy, that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was really good. My So my father was a career military officer. He's in the United States Army. He was a lieutenant colonel, but he passed away when I was 6 years old of cancer. And my family, I've got some older siblings, two older sisters, and an older brother that also passed away a couple of years after my dad. So it was just me and three women, my mom and my two older sisters. I was the baby, but they, you know, they're they grew up traveling, growing up in different areas of the country. They were always moving around. They even spent 4 years in Japan, and I didn't get that. I didn't have that. That wasn't a part of my childhood really. My father was had just retired when I was real young, so it was kind of unique. It was cool to be able to go the military route and have that opportunity to go play for the Naval Academy. But I think deep down, I probably did it for the wrong reasons. I wanted to play Division I football, and I didn't really go into it with the greatest attitude about hey, this is a commitment to the military, and so I got homesick, and I that kind of weighed on me. I was like, I'm gonna have to do this military thing, and I don't know if I'm really fired up about it, even though my father had a great career doing that, and I think a great life, and my family had a really good life, being dad was in the military. So I decided to transfer, and I decided then, I really wanted to get into teaching and coaching, and I thought that going that route in the military and going to the Naval Academy, it would probably take a lot longer to do that if I went that route. So yeah, ultimately led to me deciding to transfer, and that's what brought me to Tennessee Tech.
So how was Tennessee Tech? How was your playing time there? Did you enjoy all of your time there?
Yeah, it was awesome. I enjoyed it. I love. If you don't know anything about Tennessee Tech, it's Upper Cumberland, Tennessee. It's in Cookeville, Tennessee, kind of right in between Nashville and Knoxville. It was Division I AA back then, which is now FCS. We're in the Ohio Valley Conference. So back then it was, SEMO, Jacksonville State, Eastern Illinois, Eastern Kentucky. I think Sanford was in there for a little bit. UT Martin. So it was good. It was good competition, good football. I got to play quite a bit as a freshman. Like a reserve role, but played a good bit. And halfway through the season, I tore my MCL pretty badly. I think it was like grade 3. So I didn't get to finish the season. I spent the last half of the season rehabbing, and got healthy. Came back my sophomore year, and my sophomore year was I broke my thumb. I really didn't ever play a season healthy, as you can imagine, playing linebacker. But I had a pure dislocation of my thumb in the spring, and then broke it against Bowling Green in game 2. So I had to sit out a week. They did surgery and put some pins in it, and I sat out a week, and then came back and got to play the rest of the year. I didn't miss any more games. Of course, I was in a cast with pins sticking out of my thumb, which was crazy. It got infected, didn't heal, but I got through that and ended up having surgery after the season on my left thumb. But I had a pretty good season. I think I finished the season with something around 50 tackles or something like that, 60 tackles. My freshman year, I had something like 20 tackles. Came back my junior year, tore my meniscus in fall camp, and then was back a couple weeks later. Ended up playing that year all year, and kind of hobbled around. I wasn't overly productive. Didn't feel like I could move real well. I was carrying a little extra weight, and then I was hobbling. But same thing, I had around 50 tackles, I think, something like that. And then my senior year, I finally, for the most part, was healthy and, started almost every game. But was named second team all conference and Tennessee Tech Man of the Year. Had a really good season. I think I finished with just under 100 tackles and was named OVC Player of the Week 2 times that season. And so had a great, what I felt like was a really great experience. College playing experience was productive, and I got a degree in health and physical education, and met a lot of cool people, a lot of friends, a lot of guys I'm still friends with today, a lot of my teammates, and a lot of the coaches that were a part of those teams that I played under. I'm still got a good relationship with a lot of those guys. So yeah, I enjoyed my time at Tennessee Tech. I really did. And it was something that was far away enough from home to get away and to kind of have that college experience, but also could get home in a couple hours if I needed to or wanted to or anything like that. So it's a great place, man. It's a really good school, good place.
Well, did you ever consider going the college route coaching wise? Did you ever consider GAing, or did you just know that you wanted to teach and coach and work at the high school level?
Yeah. I kind of saw what those, and it's funny you say that because now I look back, I'm like, man, these guys that, these days that go right into it and have to GA for a couple of years or 2 or 3 years and then get a position coach or a quality control position and then work their way up there. They're doing pretty good now. Back then it was a lot different. It was 2004. I graduated in 2004. And back then it was making nickels and, you're working just as a GA just to kind of get some school paid for and live in a college, either a dorm or a college apartment on campus, and maybe get your meals paid for too. But I saw what those guys did, and I was like, man, I just get into teaching and coaching, and I don't regret it at all. It's been great. I've enjoyed it. I think this is year 21 for me, 21 or 22, something like that. So, and I think just with the way the game is going and more resources are getting, put into it at all levels, it seems like, teaching and coaching is not a bad profession at the high school level these days, and I'm able to, provide for my family and have a decent life. And so, yeah, I never really considered it. Like I said, I saw what those guys did and I was just kind of like, yeah, good teach and coach at the high school level.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all can have that part. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what was your first job out of college?
First job was at Sprayberry, actually. I went back to Sprayberry in 2005. I was there for one spring. I got a teaching job in January in the special ed department. So I was teaching out of field, which was fine. It was good. It was a good experience for me. Ultimately, I wanted to be a PE teacher, get into health and physical education. But I taught there for the spring. I coached the linebackers. Wade Beal was the head coach then at the time. And then I got a call from one of the line coaches from high school, Archie Berry, who was a assistant principal at South Cobb High School. And he called me up it was pretty late, after spring football, before summer, right? I guess maybe right at the beginning of summer, and said, hey, Vav, we got a PE position. We need a defensive coach for the football program, and maybe opportunity for me to coach a second sport. So I went over there and talked to those guys and interviewed with them, and got hooked up with Shane Queen and Billy Shackelford and 2 other Tennessee Tech guys, which was pretty cool. And Billy Shackelford is also a Sprayberry guy, so that was cool. So I left, went over there, South Cobb, and I guess the summer of 2005, I spent a year coaching defensive line with Shane Queen and those guys. And then the next season, Shane got offered the job at North Cobb High School, so he wanted me to go with him. So I left with him and went to North Cobb and coached linebackers under Coach Queen at North Cobb. I spent a season there and was the head girls track coach. Got some good experience doing that. Got to work in the weight room with Shane and Clay Livingston. I don't know if you know Clay, but really good strength coach. I learned a lot from him and Shane both. But then Billy Shackelford got offered the job back at our alma mater at Sprayberry. So he wanted me to come with him, and I thought, man, what a cool opportunity to go back there, be in the PE department, help in the room. So there I coached track, and I was the special teams coordinator and linebackers coach. So spent 5 years there, and really enjoyed my time. Had a lot of success. I felt like we turned that program around, and think we made the playoffs every year except for one while I was there. Won a region championship in 2008, which hadn't been done in a long, long time. But I wanted to be a coordinator. And one of our old basketball coaches, who coached me when I was in high school, or at least was around, part of the basketball program, he called me and said, "Yeah, we just hired a new head football coach at Etowah High School, and we're looking for a defensive coordinator. Are you interested?" So I came over to Etowah and interviewed with Dave Savela, and ended up getting the job, and spent 5 years there as the defensive coordinator and head track coach and head strength coach. And once again, a lot of good success. Learned a lot from Coach Savela and how to run a program, and felt like they were pretty good when he took that job. Bill Stewart, I think did a great job with that program. So I was just trying to keep us on the map and maybe try to take it to the next level. And we were 4-6 that first season, which wasn't great. Then the next year, 6-5, lost in the first round of Norcross, so I think ended up winning it that year in 2013. And then 2014, made a little run and got to the state semifinals, which was really, really cool. That was really cool to be a part of that team. Made playoffs the next couple of years, finished that, and then I got my first opportunity to be a head coach back at Sprayberry. So that's where I've been the last 8 years, and I wouldn't trade it for a minute, man. I loved my time there. It was, great to be a part of turning that program around, which we felt like we did, and went 11-2 last year, won a region championship, got to the state quarterfinals, ran into a buzzsaw at Lee County, which was tough, but I just really enjoyed my time. It was really hard to make a move and take this job, but I'm enjoying it so far.
So what was it like as your first head coaching job being at your alma mater?
Yeah, it was, man, it was,
I mean, you'd worked there before, so, well,
I worked there yeah.
I mean, one thing that's obvious with your story so far is relationships are super important, because you obviously had great relationships at these places because you were able to return to them and not only lead in a different capacity, but eventually become the head coach at both places, at Sprayberry and now Etowah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what this business is about relationships, developing kids, and building relationships not only with the kids but with your admin, your faculty, support staff, your parents, all of that. That's a huge part, and that's why I do this. I'm a people person by nature, and I really enjoy that part, and that's why I got into this profession. But kind of back to your question about what it was like to take over at my alma mater, my first second. It was a whirlwind, man. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. You really don't. You feel like you're supposed to know what you're doing, because you've been around guys that do it the right way and you learn from them. But you really don't ever know until you're doing it. You're kind of thrown into it, and there's a lot of stuff that you don't think about. And there's a lot of stuff that comes up, and it's funny because I didn't never really see myself becoming a head coach. I always thought of myself as more of like I'm a doer, man. You give me a job, I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to work my tail off to get it done. And creativity and kind of, I've always felt like I was pretty organized, but not to the degree that probably needed to be as a head coach. But I always looked at myself as I'm going to be a great assistant. I'm going to be maybe a defensive coordinator and run the defense and do a great job of that, and I'll be fine with that. But when this opportunity came at me at the time, I was like, man, I'd be an idiot to at least hear them out and go, take the interview and see how it goes. And then it just kind of happened. So definitely, you feel like you're ready, but you realize quickly you're not until you're doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I was talking a lot of learning along the way.
Oh yeah, I was talking to one of our young coaches today, and I wasn't like, proselytizing to him or wasn't trying to. It just happened to be natural conversation, and we were talking about feeding the kids, because one of the kids had come back with lunch, and it wasn't much. School lunch is. It's just not a lot.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, this is terrible. I can't believe this is all the food y'all get. So we started talking about the cost of feeding and getting the nutrition in these athletes that we need to get into them. And I said, well, that's why fundraising is so important, because that's something extra that has to be paid for. And the more we delved into it, the more I could see the look on his face, like that has never crossed his mind.
Never.
And I said, see, and that's yet another reason I'm not interested in being a head coach, because there's so much more to it. And the huddle was on the smart board behind me, and I turned around and said, when you're the head coach, you can't do this all the time.
Yeah.
You're doing more of the other.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to do this. I just want a position group and leave me alone.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry about how they're getting fed. Are they getting fed? You know, that stuff's important and it needs to be done. But that's things that I don't really want to have to think about. You know.
Yeah.
But when you're the head coach, that's stuff you have to think about. And I could tell by the look on his face that it never crossed his mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, man, that's just a little part of it. But that first year, so you go in, you'd been there before, you played there, you graduated from there. So what did you go in with, your philosophy and your vision, and, you know, what did you sell them on, you know, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to run the program?
Yeah, I think my my philosophy and my vision for a program is never really changed. You know, it's always been about developing relationships and getting the kids to buy into that, and to be a family, and to work hard, and to be accountable, and to do all the things that sound cliche as a coach and as a parent. What we're trying to get our kids to do is to just be a better version of themselves, you know, be the best version of themselves. But, you know, working hard, being accountable, being a good person, being a good teammate, you know, being tough, being mentally tough, being able to overcome adversity. And those are the things that we just challenge them with every single day and preach to them every single day. And we modeled it in the way that we behaved as a coaching staff. And it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the means. It was not, but it took some time to kind of change the mentality of those kids. We were super, super raw and super young when I got there. We had, I think, 12 seniors on the team my first season, and 4 of them did not make it. So we ended up the season with, I think, 8 seniors, something like that. So we were really just really inexperienced. And I've always said this, like, there's no substitute for Friday night experience. You can't really manufacture it. It's hard to manufacture in practice, although that's the goal. It's hard to manufacture on a Thursday just because things are so slow. But I said we were pretty inexperienced. We went 2-8, but like over time, that next year we were in a coach. I mean, we were in I'm talking a brutal region, and I think it was in there. Dalton was in there, Sequoia, Creekview, Alatoona, Harrison. I mean, one year Harrison, like the same region. The next year, we finished 3rd in the region behind Alatoona and Harrison. It was Harrison 1 seed, Alatoona 2 seed. We were the 3 seed, and Alatoona and Harrison played for the state championship that year. It's like, golly, it was a gauntlet. So that first season we were 2-8, but second season we only won one more game, but we were so close. We were just knocking on the door of about 4 more wins. I think we lost 5 games by a touchdown or less, by 1 score. And so that was tough to try to keep the morale up, you know, keep the parents, you know, positive, and the kids positive, because, you know, it's hard to tell your kids, like, well, we're so close, you know. It's just like they're trying to tell them there's no such things as moral victories, but in reality, it's like we're a really good football team. We just couldn't. We were having trouble finding a way to finish games and against really good football teams. So I think that was kind of the struggle in year 2. And then in year 3, we won 6 games and finally got to the playoffs, which hadn't been done in a long time there. I can't remember what year prior to that they got to the playoffs. I think it was like maybe 2011. Yeah, I think 2011 they were in the playoffs, and I don't know if they had been since then, since 2019. So 8-year stretch of not going to the playoffs. So we finally got back to the playoffs, and we lost to Lanier by 1 point. Lost 15-14, I think it was, in the first round. So, but it's definitely something to build on. And so we, had a couple 6-win seasons, and we just felt like this is like we were trying to get over the hump, and it was tough to get over that hump. And last year we finally were able to do it. Win 11 games, his best season in school history, and get to the quarterfinals and win a region championship, which hadn't been done since 2008. Last time I was an assistant there. So awesome season. Really proud of the kids and coaching staff and just the parents and everybody involved. It was really special to be a part of.
So when you got there, was establishing the weight room culture, was that something that was a big part of getting everything how you wanted it?
Yes, absolutely. As a weight room guy, I know how important that is. I know that you can, I feel like you can build, obviously the strength, but physical toughness, the mental toughness, the discipline, just a way of doing things. I kind of felt like, when we got there, wasn't as much emphasis on it as I would have liked. And so that was we were able to get all of our kids in one period, which was great. Really awesome by our administrative team to help us with that. We got all our kids in third block weight training. We're on block schedule there, which was awesome, Coach, because I'm sure you've been doing this a long time. Like, the difference between a regular bell schedule with 50 minutes and a block schedule where you got an hour and a half. And in this case, we had lunch during third block too, so it was really a 2-hour period. So it was awesome. We could get a lot of stuff done in that chunk of time. But yeah, definitely the weight room is one of the foundations of building a successful program. And so that was one of the big things we had to change for sure.
So you transitioned back to Etowah this year, and you're going back to somewhere where you've been, and they've had success in the past, and you had success when you were there as a coordinator. So what was the draw to go back to Etowah as the head coach?
Yeah. Oh man, tell you what, it was a really hard decision. The part of the draw was the history that I have there, just being a part of it, being familiar with the school, being familiar with the community. I really felt like I feel like I know what it takes to be successful here at Etowah. I also 2.5 years ago, I moved up to Woodstock. My family and my wife and I had a son. I got a 4-year-old, and so we're a family of 5. And we kind of outgrew our old house, and we were looking. It's like, man, we need a big house. We're up to our eyeballs and stuff. Our dining room quickly became my wife's office / dining room / storage room / Grayson's playroom, and we're like, man, we don't we have no room for anything. We don't have, we didn't have an extra bedroom. I was like, we had family come over and stay, or my mom come over and stay with us. She had nowhere to stay. It was like sleep on the couch, and so we outgrew our house, and we were looking, and kind of looking in Marietta area, kind of around Sprayberry, around Pope, around Lassiter, and really couldn't find anything. And then we found a house up here in Woodstock. It's Town Lake Hills East, which is a pretty awesome community. And we found it, and fell in love with the house, and ended up moving up here 2.5 years ago. So I live in this community, and I have a daughter. She's 15 years old. She goes to Etowah High School. So the 4-minute drive, plus my history there, plus Robert Horn, who's the principal, who I worked with in the past. He was our offensive coordinator at Sprayberry back when I was an assistant there, and coached quarterbacks. He's the principal. He's been there this is coming up on year 9. So have a history with him. Worked together with him, and so kind of all of that combined, just kind of felt like the right time. I had to kind of look at it as a long-term, big picture decision for my family and for myself, and this felt like the right move. So it's always a little scary when there's change, but I also feel like to grow as a person and to grow as a coach, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Change is important. So that's why I made that decision.
Awesome. So were you able to do a spring this year?
I was, yes, sir. Yeah, I actually got hired in January, so I got over there and we got done with spring practice. And, saw a lot of good. We're kind of a young team. I think we've only got about 15, 16, maybe 17 seniors. With a big junior class with some kids that had to play on Friday nights last year, including our quarterback. So we've got some pieces. We just got to work to develop kids, and there's been just minor tweaks. I think just getting the right systems in place and getting the right personnel in place. We had a good spring. Of course, we went over to Sequoia, and that was already on the schedule for a spring scrimmage, and we absolutely got throttled. I mean, they're a really good football team, so it's hard to kind of gauge where I think we're at. I think we definitely saw some good, but we got a ways to go to get to where we want to be for sure.
So how's summer gone for you guys so far? What is your model, or what model are you following in June? Have you been the 3-day or the 4-day? How do you attack the summer?
Yeah. So we're good 4 days a week. We're Monday through Thursday. We lift on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and condition, and then practice. And then Wednesdays we bring the guys in to heavy film day and practice only. So we go for a little bit longer on the field on Wednesdays. We've been throwing on Tuesdays with some other teams after we lift. So it's not a full practice on Tuesdays because of that 7-on-7. But that's the model we've been following. We've been placing an emphasis on some special teams, and like I said, we're off there just a little bit more on team. I've been a part of some seasons where we focus more on 7-on-7, and we just felt like with us being new and still trying to install stuff and get our kids kind of caught up, we want to focus a little bit more on full 11-on-11 and team. But yeah, we're following that model. I feel like it's worked well for my teams in the past, but obviously you never know until you get out there and you go play against somebody else. It's hard to judge and evaluate exactly where you are. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's been a great summer so far. The kids are working really hard, and I think we're getting better. We're definitely getting better every day. So that's what it's about.
So do you have more OTAs and padded camps scheduled in July coming up after the break?
Well, we do. Yeah, we do. Next week I got two. We have a JV 7-on-7 tournament Monday night at Lassiter. It's the Lutzy 7-on-7 JV one, and then Tuesday we're 7-on-7 tournament at Lassiter, the Lutzy, and then Wednesday we're going to an OTA padded camp over at Hillgrove. So matched up against some pretty good teams there. So it's gonna be good for us. Good evaluation, get some good film, and we've kind of changed a little bit of our personnel the last week or two, and getting some film on those guys and full pads, and going inside drill and 7-on-7 and team is going to be good. So I'm looking forward to that.
What are some things that you've learned in your first head coaching stint at Sprayberry that you have tweaked, or you kind of tried and threw against the wall and didn't quite stick, that you were like, maybe I might need to do this a little bit differently, or was everything just like, well, this is the way I'm going to do it because it works for me? I mean, is that the way it's been, or are there some things that you're like, because you were the head coach at Sprayberry for a while, so it's not like, I mean, you had time at Sprayberry to make some adjustments as well. Did you find that you had to make adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, I think every year we're making adjustments. Every week. It's not like we wholesale change things, but that's one of the things I felt like first, in my opinion, the most important thing is to surround yourself with guys that are doing it for the right reasons, and that are you got a great relationship with, you enjoy working with, and that are competent and are knowledgeable and are hardworking. And so I really believe, like, I've been a part of staffs where it's like, man, this guy might not be pulling his weight, or that guy might not be pulling his weight. And you do have to take the good with the bad sometimes. I've always said that when you're hiring staff, if the good outweighs the bad, then they're worth having a part of your staff. They bring something to the table. And so you got to have guys on your staff that, they take initiative and that, like I said, are doing it for the right reasons. And I felt like I've been very, very fortunate over the 8 years at Sprayberry. And like I said, it wasn't always perfect. You had to kind of tweak that. So there was some minor turnover on staffs year to year, not a ton, but a little bit. And it's going to be like that forever, I'm sure. But as you get to know the guys on staff, and I was able to bring over some guys from Sprayberry, which is really good. And then I was able to keep, some guys that were on staff at Etowah last year. So that's been really good. But one of the things I feel like I've done a good job with, and my coaching staff, with the help of them, that I've been able to do a good job with is just evaluating, like, week to week, what our needs are. Whether it was structure in the weight room, our programming in the weight room, whether it was plan and practice, based on our game plan and based on who we're playing against. You don't have to be. I think as coaches, we get really married to a routine, and you kind of get, oh, this is how I do things, and this is the way I always done things, so this is the way I'm doing them. You get a little stubborn, and I think you got to figure out what works best for your kids and the program that you're in, and not be married to just doing things a certain way. So when it comes to, like I said, practice structure and the way we, one of the biggest things, like, for instance, like, all right, how many two-way players are you going to have? All right, how do we structure practice to get guys reps on both sides of the ball if you're going to have guys play on both sides of the ball? What's the best way to do that? What's the most efficient way to get the most out of our practice time and not be out here for 4 hours and having two separate practices? What's the best way to do that? So, things like that are things you're going to have to think through. Like, also just evaluating, all right, what's most important for this season? Another example is it more important right now for this football team to get as tough as we possibly can be, and not really worry as much about injuries? Like, do we need to worry about injuries, or are some of the guys so important that we can't get them injured, so we need to structure practice a way that's going to, allow us to do that and, refrain from getting injured? Obviously, injuries are part of the game, but so I think over the course of 8 years, that's something that I've learned, and I think we've gotten pretty good at, having discussions in staff meetings and getting other guys' input, and just making those changes as necessary, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question or makes sense, but
no, it makes perfect sense. I was
yeah.
a lot of the questions I asked, I know what you're probably going to say. I like
Yeah.
you guys to share with other coaches, especially younger guys, like, give them ideas about, hey, these are things that you need to think about, from experienced guys like yourself that have been in, and
Sure.
they can tell them, hey, it's a living and breathing thing. Don't get stuck in, because I'm an old guy, and I know what I like, and I know, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not willing to. I'm learning new stuff every day, and I like, I see stuff, and now I look back on things. I'm like, man, why did we do that? Or or why are we doing this just because it's the way we've all, or why, we had this discussion today on the way to our 7-on-7. I was like, I remember I was at the very, very tail end of when, 7mm was getting converted to VCRs. And I remember when VHS tapes were being, VCRs were being stacked on top of each other for you to make dub copies for the whole staff. And I remember And I remember when we were converting those to DVDs and DVDs to digital. And now that we have, Huddle and, whatever software program you're using, there's no excuse in it taking all day on a Sunday to meet.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just not. The only reason you're doing
Yeah.
it is to say that I'm outworking the other guy. I mean, it is ridiculous. If everybody's doing what they're supposed to do on Saturdays and tagging it and doing what the thing does it for you. I mean, it's not like the old days where we had to actually draw it and then go back in and figure out the tendencies by hand. And
you had to write everything down on a piece of notebook paper, everything, all your notes and everything.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. It doesn't take that long anymore, and it shouldn't take that long anymore. But I mean, just things like that, and then just different parts of practice that you're like, well, we really don't need that because we've got the kids have that, but we're struggling with this. So why don't we just take that piece out and do what they need? They know they're 2s and 5s. We need to learn our 6s and 9s. It's kind of
that's right. Yeah,
we're good at that. But I just wanted to, I like it when you guys share that kind of information with people because I think that's something that is very helpful for the profession, for coaches to hear. And that's another reason why I like this format because there's so many people out there that talk X's and O's and all that other stuff, but there's not a whole lot of, guys that discuss, how they got to where they are and their story and then talk about their philosophy and, how they run their program and things they think that are important. And then my next question is, you've been in the game for a while as a head coach. What are some things that you've noticed over the past 8 years that have changed in the GHSA? And I'm not saying call the GHSA out. I'm just saying things that you've seen change in high school football that good, bad, or indifferent that you're just, that you've just noticed.
Yeah. Well, I think this is probably the most common answer that you would get from most guys you talk to, but it sounds like they're going to try to get a little bit of a handle on it, but just the amount of transfers, I think, over the course of my 21 years of doing it.
Especially as a Metro guy. You're a Metro guy.
Yeah.
Y'all see it a lot more than we do down here because if they move down here, they're going to have to move furniture. I mean, they can't, they got to go 30, 40, 50, 60 miles to get to the next place. Where you guys, there's a school pretty close by.
Yeah,
in
there's
all directions.
Schools just 1 to 2 miles apart from one another. So yeah, you're right. It's so I just don't, back when I played in high school, in the 90s, it was, there wasn't really any transferring around. I mean, people were very, very prideful of where they grew up and the school they were playing for and the brotherhood and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist still. It does in a lot of areas, but just over the course of time, that's become more and more prevalent, and it's been very easy for kids to just move around. And maybe the oversight on it hasn't been maybe what it needed to be. I mean, I just from experience at Sprayberry, there was 1 year, I'm trying to think what season it was. It was 2020, maybe the COVID year, or 21, where we lost, Coach, I think I counted like 10 plus kids left our program. And it really wasn't, one or two of them might have been for, all right, well, I'm like, we had one kid transfer to Louisiana. His parents or his mom, they moved back to Louisiana where he was from. It was a single parent home. We had another kid move in with his father. So he was with his mom. He moved in with his father to a school in Alabama. Had another kid that moved to Florida. One kid went to another school in the metro area. Another kid went to another school in the metro area. But some of it was for, all right, maybe there's a better opportunity to get recruited, they felt like, at this school than there was at the time at Sprayberry. And some of it was just, family matters or personal matters, but it was just like, to lose 10 kids, 10 plus kids, it might have been more. It might have been like 13 or 14 kids in the span of a year and a half. I was like, man, this is crazy. So, and then you see it around, all around, like you mentioned, in the metro area. It's happening all the time. And now it's, the kids and the parents are so bold. They'll just post it all over social media and kind of brag about it, like it's a college transfer portal.
Yeah, like they're shopping themselves out.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So I think that's something that has just been a big change from when I first got into this. I talked about when I was a player, but heck, even when I first got into coaching, it wasn't a big thing. Rarely did you see it, and you see it a lot now. So that was a challenge, and it was a challenge at Sprayberry a little bit. Just to be quite honest with you, is just making sure that you were doing whatever you could to try to keep your kids and keep them from leaving your school and going somewhere else where they felt like they might have a better opportunity.
Well, Coach, I know you're going to do a great job at Etowah. You've done a great job at your alma mater and getting that thing turned around and leaving on a high with a region championship and the greatest record in school history. And I really can't wait to see what the Etowah Eagles do this fall under your leadership. Returning, that 4-minute drive is going to be awesome.
It's nice, Coach. It's real nice.
And being at the school where your daughter's at, that's going to be fantastic too. Get to have lunch with her every day. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us, Coach. And if there's ever anything in the world I can do for you, just let me know.
Coach, I appreciate it very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
Take care.